I get this image sometimes, or this feeling of struggling to keep my head above water, as if I'm a drowning man in the waves and getting sucked under and desperate for breath. And then I come up and I breathe in, and there's this sunlit realm above the turbulent water. But then I only can take just enough breath and I get sucked back under again. Then I come up again with some, these experiences are these kind of breakthroughs into the real world, or breakthroughs into what's possible for a human being and for society. But then I get sucked back under again into the old story, into the old world, into the despair. And then I come up again, and this time there's somebody else up there too. And we hold on to each other, and we don't get sucked down that fast. And then we come up again, and there's 4 or 10 people, and we hold each other even longer. And maybe we get sucked down again, because there's not quite enough of us. What I feel is starting to happen now in my life is that I'm coming up, and there's enough people now all swimming together, holding each other in this world, so that we can maybe dive down into the other world, but we don't forget anymore. And we have hands linking us, holding us. So that this time of loneliness is really coming to an end for a lot of people now, as we come into community that on one level just reassure us that we're not crazy, and that tell us how we can live from this place, because it's really unfamiliar, and that give us examples of living in trust. Like, for example, to live in trust that there's an organic intelligence pervading all things, and that you can listen for what wants to happen and act from that listening. And you don't have to necessarily plan and control everything or know how you're going to get from point A to point B. That you can just trust that you know what the next step is. Not that you ignore a systemic understanding. That's important. But that the things that we need to do today, we don't know how to do. We don't know how, we see a place, a beautiful world, but we don't know how to get there. But we know that it's real. We know that it's real because we've experienced it in these special places on Earth. Tamara is one of those special places where you go there and you know that this is not some, peak experience that is an exception to the world and that we'll encounter maybe when we go to heaven or something like that. But we understand it as, because it's so grounded, because it's so practical, we understand it as a glimpse of the future, a reality that could happen everywhere on Earth. The task of actually implementing that is formidable. If you want to actually plan out how are we going to do it, almost any scenario seems unrealistic. Almost any scenario will have gaps of how do we get from that point to the next point. But we're not in a fantasy. We can feel its reality, and when we bow deeply into service to something that's real, that is a being that will create conditions for it to happen, if our service is deep enough. Usually then what happens is that we need to offer, at some point we'll be asked to offer a sacrifice that purifies our clarity of intention. I mean, that's what happens for me. What am I really serving? Am I serving my own status, fame, reputation, or financial interest? Or am I willing at a key moment to sacrifice that to serve this larger thing? And I guarantee you that when you make this commitment to serve that thing that you've experienced, that world that you've gotten a glimpse of, and you know it's real, when you make that commitment, when you have that feeling like, I will do anything to bring this to the world, the listener, the all-pervasive listener says, oh, great, are you sure? Because you said that before. And so it will create conditions where you get to clarify that choice in yourself. And those conditions will help you to remove this conflicting motivation so that you will be more and more unconflicted, in deeper and deeper trust, and more powerful. So this is another way that community is very important, because you see other people acting from that same kind of courage, and it generates a field of courage.